Hi there and welcome back. Today's is the 42nd in the I Eat, I Read, I Watch series. So what am I cooking today? Well, chili, kind of, and its various leftover variants. With my forced interest in lower cholesterol eating, I haven't bought ground beef in a few months. It's too expensive now anyway. Chili is one of my go-to dishes though, because it can start as chili and then morph into many other meals. I like to have some meat in it though, even if it's mixed in with other forms of protein. So I bought some ground turkey. Let's see how that worked out. It was a work from home day, so on my lunch I chopped a cooking onion and sauteed it in a little oil. As it was softening, I added a generous shake of chili powder and then less generous amounts of cumin, umami seasoning, and garlic powder. And then the ground turkey. With the lid on, I let it cook down with an occasional stir. I used those 10 minutes to chop veg. This is where that kind of chili comes in, or more so, because I used just whatever I had in the fridge, half a leek, a jalapeno, a few cherry tomatoes, and a small zucchini. All that went into the slow cooker along with another generous shake of all the seasoning and a good grind of salt and pepper. Then I opened a can of tomatoes and added that, crushing them a little as I did, and added a good dollop, technical term, of spicy red salsa and another of green salsa and a smaller dollop of jarred chipotle. With the turkey no longer pink, I added everything from the frying pan into the slow cooker, put the lid on, and set it for low. 2 hours later, the smells wafting up the stairs to my desk drew me down to take a look. At that point, I stirred in a package of Big Mountain Lion's Mane mushroom protein grounds. The tastiest ground meat substitute I've found. 2 hours later still, I stirred in a can of Romano beans, the only beans I had on hand. At the 5-hour mark, I ladled myself a bowl, topped with half a chopped avocado, a few leaves of coriander, some chopped lettuce, a green onion, and a little goat's cheese feta, aside a handful of corn chips. Yum. Now for the variations. Second meal, burrito. A slather of cream cheese, 2 spoonfuls of chili, a few corn chips, and a bit of cowboy candy in a burrito shell, heated on a hot skillet. Served aside coleslaw, half an avocado, topped with some salsa and coriander, with 3 more burritos set aside for freezing. And then the next meal. Chili soup? Sure. A dollop of chili, some vegetable broth, a spoonful of cream cheese. Listen, buying it was a mistake. I'm not capable of having cream cheese on hand without eating it all week. A chopped avocado, some coriander, and the last of the corn chips. Prep time. The chili was about 20 minutes and then 5 hours of cooking. Origin, as Canadian as possible. That Big Mountain Company, by the way, is a BC-based women and family-owned business. Be sure to check it out. Cost, about $24 for 6 meals. Breakdown of that is about $8 for the turkey, $7 for the Big Mountain protein grounds, $2 for each of the cans, about $4 for the veg, I'd guess, and $1 for the toppings. If you've got a chili variation, be sure to put it in the comments on my blog. What am I reading? Well, I'm reading Definitely Thriving by Carrie Claire. I know Carrie Claire because back in 2021, I took her 8-week blog course inspired from reading her blog, Pickle Me This. I've kept up with her writing and she's very generously kept up with mine too, from time to time referring her readers to things I've written in the Gleanings section of her regular posts. I've even sought her advice a couple of times over the years, and she's been so gracious with her responses. Claire's a novelist too, so when she released her 4th book, Definitely Thriving, I knew I had to go to the launch in the hopes of meeting her finally in person, which we did. And surprise, she was lovely then too. Seemingly a mutual admiration society, despite the pretty significant gap in writing experience. And of course, I bought her book. And what a fun book it is. But not just fun. I really relate to her protagonist, Clemence Lathbury. Although we've had very different paths to getting where we are, Clemence and I have some shared territory. Living alone in a tiny space, for example, where Carrie's character especially likes the fact the only messes made are her own. Can relate. Working less than full time, as I also do, provides a spaciousness in Clemence's life that makes her feel lucky. Cobbling together community from among those in her geographic community, which, Clemence notes, is both a disaster and everything. Totally get it. Well, Bridget Jones, and you'll find out why that reference is here, may be Carrie Clare's inspiration for this book. Clemence has none of Bridget Jones's preoccupations, like weight, smoking, drinking, or having a perfectly conventional life, just as I don't. So thanks, Carrie, for reflecting in book form something that looks a little more like my life. I'm not sure I've read a contemporary novel that's come close to that before. If you've read something that looks a little like your life, please share it in the comments on my blog. Finally, I'm watching, yes, you guessed it, Bridget Jones' Diary. Although I was keen to attend Carrie Clare's book launch to meet her, hear her talk about her book, and purchase a copy, the evening was made even more appealing because she held it at the Paradise Cinema on Bloor West, where we were treated to a screening of the film every woman my age saw 25 years ago, Bridget Jones' Diary. By the movie's April 2001 release, I'd already read Helen Fielding's book on which the movie was based, and there were lots of ways I felt I'd evolved beyond some of the concerns of Renee Zellweger's titular character. I'd just given up smoking, hadn't weighed myself in over a decade, and had never and would never sleep with my boss. Although in fairness, I've also never worked for anyone as damned irresistible as Hugh Grant. But there was something vaguely familiar about Jones's situation too. She was in her early 30s and single, hanging with her tribe of single friends, cooking questionable food or dining out, drinking too much wine, and worrying about whether coupledom would ever materialize for her. When faced with the choice between the aforementioned attractive boss played by Grant versus the more stable and, let's face it, also pretty damned attractive Colin Firth in the Mark Darcy role, she made a bad decision in Grant's favor. And then, of course, ended up kissing Darcy whilst in her underpants in the famous snowy street scene. I can't imagine that sentence required a spoiler alert, but sorry if I've wrecked it for you. I know seeing the film the first time made me weep that she'd finally snagged a fella. Happy tears for Bridget and wistful ones for 35-year-old single Celia. Seeing it 25 years later, though, I didn't have that emotional response. It was just a movie. Although I'm single again, it's with contentment now. The contentment of Clemence in Clare's book. Have you been to the cinema lately? Tell us about it on my blog. Thanks for watching.